So good to see everyone, and I'd like to welcome you all to the Children's Environmental Health Summit here at Alaska Pacific University, protecting children at the top of the world. We really appreciate everyone being here. We know that people have traveled from far and wide to be here, so it's so wonderful to see you all this morning. And we're here to learn together, listen, and bring our best thinking to help ensure a healthy environment for all children and future generations. So we have a lot to do in the next 2 days. We acknowledge and respect that we are meeting on the traditional lands of the Dena'ina and Eklutna Athabascan people, and we are here by their grace. We are honored that First Chief Stephan of the Eklutna tribe, the native village of Eklutna, is with us today to offer a traditional welcome and blessing. Thank you, Chief.
Holy moly. Yalidu. Some of you, Itzkelan, you still have breath. You know, I'm learning my language back. It'll probably take me forever, but I had to write my traditional greeting down, and modern day I gotta use glasses because I can't see. Yalida, greetings. Hida, Ina, hello friends. Lee Stephan, Chishi Igwiglan. My name is Lee Stephan. Chishi clan. My clan is Oaktree Paint clan. My Ana, maiden name, is Izai, mother. Chinan Gunenu Ida Hina Ina. Thank you come here, friends. You know, I've been doing stuff for a little while now, since about the 80s, and as you see, new stuff coming along. When I was a boy, I went to work with my brother-in-law. We didn't know anything about refrigerators. He used to take them apart, burn them, get the copper out of them. Children's health, you hear to talk about. Nobody taught me nothing. So when I took that refrigerator apart, the little button looked like a tire pressure gauge. What did the kid know? I wonder what this do. I pressed that little button. I got squirted in the face with some green stuff. Long time for in my life, I think I suffered from whatever come out of that thing. Almost feel like you're awake, sleepy, you get tired. It never gone away. Nowadays, you got to figure priority. What's most important, right? What's in your immediate vicinity, within 5 feet, within 10 feet, within the global world? Children's environmental health. Think on it that way. You're going to do a lot of work. What's most important at the moment? What can you make a change? Help everybody immediately in your, within 5 feet or whatever. In the same vein, what will impact I see where we use the word global warming. We got up one day and there's no snow. And yet, people in high power, that's just click words. You want economy or you want to pursue this myth. You got to say back to them, you want to live or you want to die. Tons of money stacked up everywhere ain't going to do you a damn bit of good if you got nothing to breathe. Hopefully everybody think on it that way and work on it that way. I didn't see anybody agenda, and hopefully I get you off in the right way, and this is the kind of things you all be talking about here. I don't know how many days now. But I brought a prayer, I guess, and again I got to put my glasses on because I can't see. That can't be good. Please stand. Heavenly Father, we come before you on this day to ask for your glorious blessing and thank you for this day. Bless those who have gathered here today for this opportunity to share and learn. We ask that you guide our thoughts to help us learn what is being offered in hopes it will assist us in making good decisions. We ask that we all seek to understand one another as well as to be understood. Allow us to ask good questions on the topics being taught so that lessons will provide lasting benefit for all. Bless those who have taken the time to prepare this event. Bless those who will provide the knowledge and wisdom. Watch over our families as we are away from them today. Care for the sick, the elderly, those who are homeless. Bless those who stand in harm's way to ensure we remain free. Protect us all as we travel to and from this event. All this we pray in Jesus' precious name. Amen. Chinan, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you. Hello, Mayor. And now I would like to thank and welcome Mayor Berkowitz, who has graciously agreed to give us some opening remarks. And I just want to thank you for your great leadership of our city, and we are just so pleased that you can be with us today. Thank you.
Thanks, Pam. Nice to see you. This isn't good. Okay, we'll try this. Well, good morning, everybody. Lechinan. I actually have to begin with a little bit of a trip down memory lane. Last time I did something formal with the Alaska Community Action on Toxics, they drew a blood sample from me. It turns out that I am certifiably fire retardant. So no matter what you say to me, I am immune. When we think about what environmental health means, the normal political cliche is you want clean air, clean water, no toxics. You want to have safe homes and safe communities. And when you set up the discussion with those values as your aspiration, there's clarity about where we're trying to go, and the difficulty comes with how do we get there. And for those of you who've come to Anchorage from around the state, you know the difficulties. You know what happens when there's E. coli and fecal coliform in the dust that happens in villages that have sewage lagoons. You know what happens in communities across the state where there's rampant domestic violence. We also know that more than any other state, we feel the impacts of climate change. Traditional patterns of subsistence hunting and gathering are different. Communities are in jeopardy. Even here in Anchorage, the way we run this city is different today than it was 10 years ago. We don't have snowfall anymore the way we used to. We have freeze-thaw cycles, which pose a different set of challenges. And so as we consider what it means to generate environmental health, not just for children, but for the entire community, we have to recognize that we're going to need to approach the problem with an expanded perspective. This isn't the way, this isn't simply the way we've approached the question of environmental health historically, and the challenges are particularly acute here. And the other thing to contemplate is the inequities, the inequalities that exist in this state, the access to environmental health that exists in the big cities are different and more advanced than they are across rural Alaska. And I think that we need to acknowledge those distinctions. We need to acknowledge that there's a symbiotic relationship in terms of solving those problems. Anchorage has resources that the rest of the state doesn't have. The rest of the state provides wealth to Anchorage that we would not otherwise have. But we're in this together. And when we address it, I think we have a responsibility to formulate policy that allows us to set an example. And when I say that, let's begin with the question of climate change. We are not passive observers of climate change. We have the capacity in this state to not only acknowledge climate change and wring our hands about it, but to do something about it, to lead by example. When I go to rural Alaska, I see communities that are burdened by high energy prices, the high cost of diesel. And at the same time, when I travel to some of those villages, I see villages that have the ability to be self-sustaining with renewable energy. And it's not that what you do in Kongiganac is going to dramatically change the carbon profile of the world. But if we can show in our villages that we can be energy self-sufficient, then we have the ability to show the rest of the world that they too can be energy self-sufficient. Here in Anchorage, we can do things and are attempting to do things. We in this city already get a considerable amount of our resources, our energy from renewable resources, from hydropower, from wind power. There's geothermal, and I'd like to point out that we have the biggest tides in the United States, and we ought to be harnessing them. But we have to have the aspiration that by our own example, we can lead the rest of the world. And in the more insidious aspects of what we can do to make our communities safer, we do lead the country in what I call in what are some very damning statistics. The high rates of domestic violence and suicide in Alaska. And those require a coordinated response. It is not solely the responsibility of government, but government cannot, in the name of budget cutting, refuse its responsibilities. And I think people in this room who are advocates for health also need to become political advocates and insist that not only the state legislature, but local governments generate adequate resources so we can address those problems. These are not simply law enforcement problems, these are social problems, and it requires a coordinated response between law enforcement and mental health and drug and alcohol and the whole panoply of resources that we can throw at these problems if we're going to make any kind of meaningful impact. One of the tragic statistics is that almost half the women in this state have been the victims of domestic violence or sexual assault. And that's good news, because not so long ago it was 60%. But it took concerted effort over a prolonged period of time for us to bring those numbers down. And I think there's a moral imperative for us to continue those efforts. We also see that there's the importation of non-indigenous species and toxins from around the globe in ways that we didn't see. And that impacts how we live our lives and how people who engage in traditional hunting and gathering, traditional subsistence, the impacts that they feel from what is global. We are far away, but we are not insulated. And I think one of the approaches that I found most intriguing is something that's been being done through ANTHC. They have observation networks. There's the LEO program. Are any of you familiar with LEO? So it's local environmental observers. All of us have the capacity to be science citizens who are able to contribute to the body of knowledge that helps us understand what's going on in our local communities. So through knowledge, we can better understand and better formulate policy. And this is a combination of traditional knowledge as well as science and as well as technology. And as we meld these together, we can have fact-driven policy. Lee made reference to those in power who seem to dispute the realities that we live with here, the reality of climate change. And I know that facts are oftentimes in short supply during the political season. It might be particularly true this season. But if we're to effect any meaningful change, we need to have fact-based policy. And so I look at the brain power in this room, the advocacy that's in this room, and it is not just advocating for your organization or for the constituents you serve. We have to join hands and link arms and find ways of making more effective change. Because the way to combat climate change, the way to combat these pernicious statistics is to change the way we're attempting to solve the problem. And the resources are few. But we cannot solve the problems if we silo those resources. We have to reach across organizations. We have to focus on what the common missions are so that we can actually solve problems and make a meaningful difference in the lives of the people we all serve. So I wish you the very best of luck. We are here to be of assistance in Anchorage. We are partners in this, and we thank you for your efforts. Thanks.
Thank you, Chief, and thank you, Mayor. Oh, there they are.
I can't see so well.
I'd like to thank you both for your words of wisdom and words of inspiration. We have a lot to talk about, and I'm just so pleased that you both are here. Thank you. I'll say more about what we hope to accomplish in the next 2 days. However, first, I have some people and organizations that I'd like to thank. Our wonderful summit sponsors, you see them listed here, the National Institute of Environmental Health Sciences, the Alaska Mental Health Trust Authority, the Alaska Children's Trust, the Pediatric Neurology Clinic, Avante Medical Center, and Dr. Bethany Buchanan, who is here with us today, the Geneva Woods Birth Center, Raven, Alaska, Stone Soup Group, the Natural Health Center, and Mom's Clean Air Force. I'd like to give a big thanks to all of our sponsors that made this possible. Thank And I'd like to invite you to talk with our sponsors and see their display tables on the breaks and at lunch. They're in the Gottstein building, which is right next door. And there are also a number of individuals that I would like to personally thank. First of all, I'd like to give a big special thanks to Jessie Thornton, our civic engagement coordinator, who has brought this together and kept us all in line and made it happen. So Jessie, wherever you are, thank you. And I'd like to invite all the ACAT staff to just come up so that all of you can see our faces and know who to go to in case you need anything. So if everybody could just run up here real quick, please, and stand up with me. So in the interest of time, I'm just going to ask everybody to just say their first name. But these are people that work with us in our Anchorage office, and we also have our St. Lawrence Island community health researchers. So I'm just going to ask them to give their first names, and then you know who to go to if you need anything. Sama.
And that's my name, Sama. Welcome, everybody.
My name is Erica.
Hi, I'm Jessie. If you have any problems, please find me. I'm here to help. So.
I'm Tiffany.
Hi, everyone. I'm Christy.
Hi, good morning. My name is Emily.
My name is Vai Wari. I'm the daughter of the late John and Della Wari. I'm a St. Lawrence Island Yupik grandmother. I'd like to thank you all for coming. It was great to see a lot of friends and meet new ones. Thank you.
And I'm Jasmine Jimowak.
But not least.
Hi, I'm Morgan Gray, and I'm the administrator. You'll see me out at registration.
Thank you, Morgan, and thank you all. Thank you all. And I don't see Patty Saunders, but I'd also like to acknowledge Patty Saunders, and you'll get to meet her later today. And do please feel free to call on any of us for assistance if you need anything. We want to make your stay here as comfortable and as possible and make sure you have everything you need. So also, a few more thanks. For assistance in planning this event, I would like to acknowledge the help of several individuals who provided their insights, enthusiasm, and suggestions for the agenda and assistance with getting the word out. These include Gretchen Stewart and Aaron McTeague from the EPA, Dr. Matt Hirschfield, Dr. Allison Kelleher, who will be speaking on the plenary panel this morning, Samantha Englishu, Dr. Birgit Langer, who is our board member and board co-chair, Patrice Lee from Citizens for Clean Air, who will also be presenting later today, AJ Salkowski of ANTHC, and Brandon Hill for his really artful design of the logo for our event. And I'd like to thank all of our speakers in advance who have come again from near and far to join us for these days away from your families, away from your work obligations. We appreciate you coming here to be with us, to share your expertise and your thoughts. And to all of you who have come to learn and participate in finding solutions, we thank you. So why are we here? As parents, as teachers, aunts and uncles, as grandparents and guardians, healthcare providers, we offer our best care, nurturing, teaching of culture and traditions, lullabies and love for our children. Yet we recognize that what we can do as individuals and as families, even as tribes and communities, may not be enough to protect our young loved ones from the harm that might come their way. Systemic changes are needed in our policies at all levels, from local to international, in our healthcare system, in our schools, in our communities, in our marketplaces. These are necessary to prevent harm and protect the most vulnerable among us, our children. In our work in Alaska, we hear concerns from parents, tribal leaders, elders, and healthcare providers about the health of our children around Alaska. People are concerned about learning and developmental disabilities, birth defects, asthma, childhood cancers. We know that the North is a hemispheric sink for chemical contaminants that rise on wind and ocean currents from all over the hemisphere, can travel hundreds, sometimes thousands of miles, and accumulate in the bodies of wildlife and people of the North. Children can also be exposed through indoor air. We know that our homes are insulated against the cold and are less well ventilated, perhaps, than in lower latitudes, resulting in higher exposures to indoor air and household dust that can be conveyors of contaminants. We certainly don't have all the answers here today. That's why we invited you. So we would just like you to join us in asking the right questions, in making recommendations for change, and in finding ways that we can work together after this summit. So again, thank you. And today and tomorrow we'll hear presentations from leading scientists, policy experts, advocates, and community leaders. And we'll have the opportunity to discuss and ask questions. Tomorrow, following a few more presentations, we will break into working groups. And these include policy, research, environment, healthcare, education, and outreach, to hopefully come up with some practical recommendations and actions that we can take together to protect the health of our children. And we'll say more about this tomorrow. And then, before we get started with the next plenary, I'd like to just offer a few housekeeping messages. I think perhaps you found the restrooms in Grand Hall, but they're just down to the right, near the coffee stand. We have an emergency exit right here. The sponsor exhibits, again, you should have a passport, and so we invite you to visit the sponsor tables and get stamps on your passport. And if you complete your passport, then you will be eligible for a drawing of a book by Philippe Grandjean called Only One Chance. So please do that. And we'd also like to thank Mary Kotsky and Todd from Affinity Films who are here to film. This will be broadcast later on public television on KTOO 360 North and also through electronic media. So we really thank you, Mary and Todd, for being here with us today. And finally, I'd just like to ask everybody to turn off your cell phones, please. We'll have 2 remote presentations, one from Kimberly Gray later this morning from NIEHS, and one from Philippe Grandjean, who will be speaking to us from Denmark. And so we're on a wireless network here, so to avoid interference, especially during those presentations, if you could just stay off the wireless, that'll help us out a whole lot. Okay, now is the time for our first plenary panel, so I'd like to invite Vi, Lisa, Rosemary, and Allison to please come up.